So, guys, we're about to hit the official first day of summer when we're recording this podcast. And I don't know about you, but for me, summertime is always kind of like, oh, yes, the dog days of summer, take some time off, ease up. And I have more to do right now than ever before. And that's what this list was. And the most fascinating thing emerged. And I was like, my brain immediately started organizing these things into themes. Welcome to the Live Truly Free podcast.
Yeah, I think it would be good to talk about that right now, George, because as you know, I just graduated. And so I've been used to my entire life before this summer. I had the summer off. I would pick up jobs in the summer and stuff, but those were always like on a part-time basis just to keep money coming in. But I still mostly felt like I was on break. This summer is a completely different story, though.
Right.
I've got a full-time job that I guess doesn't give people summers off. I'm trying to basically restart my company at this point. We've got this podcast going on. We need to record the audio book. And then also, I just moved to a new city, so I'm trying to build a social life here and would like to, take some time off to settle down and figure that out. But it just feels like there's no time. There's too much to do in such a small period of time that is summer.
Yeah, and it doesn't help, I think, when I don't know that you ever get out of the mentality of like that gets programmed into us, like in grade school and middle school and high school and college, if you go, where it's like summers are off and you kind of kick back. And so in the Northern Hemisphere, our summers are hot and we're in Texas. We are now hitting a heat wave. Like real feels 112 degrees. I just want to go chill out or go to the pool or something. And then people are telling you they're going on their summer vacations and you may have a summer vacation plan, but it's only a week or 2 weeks and the summer's 3 months. And it's like,
And not only that, you might have your one vacation plan, but then there's a bunch of people coming into you asking for weekend trips. Come visit my city, come stay with me. Can I come stay with you? It just feels like everybody's trying to celebrate the summer time, and it just feels like too much.
Especially with entrepreneurs, because it's not like we just go to the job, 8 to 5. We got to create the job, then go to the job. And I mean, it's like, and
then figure out what the next job is going to be.
No kidding. I get, well, what am I going to do today? And that just hadn't worked. And a week or two ago, I decided I'm going to do things differently. And I started listing out all the things I need to do. And there was like 14 things. And all of them need to be done last week or last year. I mean, it's not that I guess you can say I was procrastinating, but it's like I've got more stuff to do than I can get done.
I feel the exact same way, where I have all of these like responsibilities that I have to get done.
Yeah.
And also I feel obliged to say yes to every trip. So it's like, I feel like I need to get these things done and I need to have more time to do them. But then actively, I'm like, also, I need time to relax so that I can actually have energy to get those things done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I was listening to a podcast a while back, and one of the guys on the podcast referenced a study. He didn't have the specifics. The study was the less time you had, the more you got done. And you and I have been talking about this a little bit, and I thought it'd be fun to share this because the idea is at a certain point, you become unproductive or less efficient.
Yeah. And then we looked up a couple articles for this, and we found some mainstream articles that describe it. And they say after about 55 hours, you're just as productive as you are. Like at 55, you're as productive as you are at hour 70, which is not very productive at all. So these articles, they concluded, well, anybody working over 55 hours is doing no more work than people working under those 55 hours.
Yeah, and that was was that article the one quoting the 2014 Stanford study?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've listened to previous podcasts, when it comes to studies, I go to the horse's mouth, so to speak. Maybe that's a Texas expression. And this is absolutely fascinating. That 2014 study was based on munition workers making munitions in 1915 and 1916 in England for World War One.
Oh, it's not. It didn't look at office workers at all.
No, no, it's what they discovered was you'd make the same amount of munitions. That's bullets, basically, I guess, or torpedoes or rockets or something, But you may, like, once they had them, and they were working 100 hours a week, and
Oh
they
God.
found that they could make the same amount of munitions in 70 hours a week. And Stanford ran all these complicated formulas, but it's all based on the munition workers. And then I read then there's some other studies, and one was in Iceland and more recent, like 2019. But they studied government workers.
I know for sure, like munition workers for sure, and I mean government workers are a lot of them too. That's all physical labor, which is completely different than what I know. A lot of entrepreneurs they are in physical labor jobs and industries, but a lot of like the desk work, the knowledge work, if you want to call it, the white collar work, that it's completely different because your physical body is not being taxed. Like your physical
Right.
body will degrade, I'm assuming, faster than your mind when it comes to work, but maybe not if the studies talked about that at all. I didn't read them. I only read the
Yeah,
articles.
no, no. I scanned the study. Once I saw what it was based on, I'm like, okay, I don't think what most of us do in the creator economy, in the thought leader economy, that sort of thing, that, like even IT and programming and stuff like that. I did see something that I thought was very valid, and that was like the 8 hour. Well, actually, do you know where the 40-hour work week came from? 8 hours a day.
I actually don't.
It came out of the Industrial Revolution. Now, wasn't
And
that like in the 1800s?
yeah, why do they settle on 40?
Um, because it had been 60 or something. And the point is that, well, what this one study showed was that even it really, human brains don't really work very well 8 hours straight. I mean, I guess if you're on an assembly line, and that's what came out of the Industrial Revolution, the assembly lines, and you're assembling munitions, you're pouring the gunpowder in or whatever it is you're doing, and you're not having to use your brain to do that stuff, and even in my work, there's stuff that, look, it's pretty much routine. I can just go in there and do it, but a lot of it requires thinking. I go for every 50 minutes, get up and walk around. Um, Hydrate. There's all sorts of things. Take a walk around the block, take the dog out. There are all sorts of things. You've got to break that day up, or you
Yeah,
just
I have the exact same experience. I feel though I can sit down and focus for a pretty long period of time, maybe like 2, 3 hours even. But then after that, I need the break. And depending on how long that intense focus session was, is going to kind of determine how long I need that break to be before I feel like I'm reset and I can get back into a heavy focus session. So if I did like 3 hours, I'm probably going to need an hour or two break to get into another 2 or 3 hours. I can't, the 8 hours in a row, I completely agree. If I had to sit down, and fortunately, I work for a company that's flexible with these hours and understands this. Because if they made me sit down at my computer for 8 straight hours, there's going to be half of that time is going to be my brain just struggling to get back into focus, I imagine.
another study showed this, that in that 8 hour block, like you're in your cubicle, you're at your home office, wherever you are, in front of that computer for 8 straight hours, 2.5 hours on the average is spent in what is called cyber loafing a day.
And what's that? Just scrolling on Google, just making it look like you're doing something, but
I'm,
really,
I'm, shopping Amazon and filling up my cart. I'm, comparing, the latest hiking boots or, things thing I'm planning for the weekend.
Oh yeah, especially 'cause you're on a computer, yeah. So you have the access to the entire internet and all the worlds.
I think cyber loafing is really anything that's not work related on the computer. And so 2.5 hours out of an 8 hour day.
Like 30% or something around there.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, 5.5 hours. In other words, you've got 5.5 productive hours. And what some of these studies suggest is 6 hours is about right.
It sounds like we're getting some really good answers on how to be productive, more productive here. And it's not the answers most people would expect, I'm guessing.
This is not about productivity, guys. Let me just tell you. I so there's zillions of podcasts or YouTube videos, 8 tips to productivity, how to, the 10 ways, the 14 things, do these 24 ways to increase your productivity. I've spent real money on productivity courses. And my problem is that I'm so focused on the productivity and trying to remember all the things I'm supposed to be doing, actually became less productive.
That makes sense. Like if you have 24 tips you have to remember, your time is going to be spent remembering the tips and not implementing them.
It's like you should take a break every 50 minutes. All right. Get up and take a break. I even said that a minute ago, right? But it doesn't work every 15 minutes. Alarm goes off. Oh, I got to get up. Well, wait a minute. I've completely lost my train of thought. It's going to take me 30 minutes to go back and figure out where was I and what was I doing. Whereas if I had waited till I got to a good stopping point and then taken a break, well, there's probably now a new hack on that, and I put together this list, AJ. And what it is, it's really bringing more tools to entrepreneurs to help them, get to their next levels, build great companies, find ways to have a full and complete life, ultimately live truly free. So I go like, okay, these are things that have been sitting there for a while that need to be done. The audiobook, we've got it. We just got to finish the editing and publish it. And it's a great tool. It'll be a great tool for people. I've had an e-course that I've had actual people go through on mapping your direction, and it's using the Next Level Navigator process in my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur. And it's a fabulous tool, and it's just sitting there. And I know why it's sitting there, because there's all these things to bring it to life. And so I just started listing out all things like that. And I ended up with like 13 big items with probably underneath them a half a dozen things. So I don't know what 6 times 13 is, but we're talking like over 80.
So you sat down and you just said, okay, what are the big things that I want to get done? And you just listed those out and didn't even write down those 12 little sub points that have to go under each thing. You just figured out what are the big things. Let me write them down first so that you have a kind of a complete picture of what you need to do.
Right. So,
and then what do you do from there?
Well, here's what I've done. And it's like, I don't work well. I'm not a list guy. I've tried. I have researched every possible software thing. If you guys want to suggest something to me, that'd be fine. I'll check it out. But it's like, I can't clean the list off. There's nothing that works like my brain works. And I've tried Notion, which is probably one of the best tools out there. And I know about Evernote. Used it years ago. I can't stick with something consistently. The other thing that I had going on was this feeling like there's all this stuff I need to do, but I don't really know. It's like I need to go clean out that closet, but I'm afraid to open the door to the closet because I really don't want to see what's in there. It was like I have all these things to do and I really don't want to open the door to that. But I did, and that's what this list was. And the most fascinating thing emerged, and I was like, my brain immediately started organizing these things into themes. And this ties to my Next Level Navigator. So in the 6 to 12 month strategies, we call those next step strategies. What we have is we set up a 1-year theme. So what's the theme for the year? And it takes all those strategies and sums them up into an easy to remember phrase, like 3 or 4 words. And I go, do that with this. And so I said, so
And
what's
that's kind of similar. That's very similar to your New Year's process that we talked about on our New Year's podcast a few months ago.
right? Right. A theme for the year, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, break this down. If I have a little theme for each month, then I know I take this whole list. Now this list automatically sorts itself in my brain. And I physically wrote the list out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what emerged was, oh, okay. So there's tools that I have that are not available. They're mostly done or completely done. Or in the case of the course, for example, there's things I want to add to it, but go ahead and release it as a beta. So what I did was I realized, well, June is get all those tools out and available. So they're all, well, there's a bunch of behind the scenes stuff that has to happen. Okay.
Yeah. It's not just click a button.
Right. Let me bring up one thing that makes this more complicated. I want to own my stuff. So what I mean by that is like, I don't want to host a course on a course platform because I'm at their mercy. And if they go away, my stuff goes away. And then I've got to go redo the whole thing. I want to own everything about it. And also, I don't want to pay a bunch of fees for that. That's why I self-published a book. We should do a whole podcast on what I'm talking about, because it financially makes more sense too, by the way. So what that means is, and I've got the platform built, but I have to figure out how to host all the videos, because there's a lot of videos with the course. I've got to figure out what's an easy way that it can be bought. So I've got to integrate that. And so then I decided, you know what I'm going to do? So I started finding all these plugins, and it's on a WordPress site and stuff. I'm going to host my own mail list and on WordPress. And I have found some terrific ways to do it. It's a little complicated, but it's not impossible. Once it's set up, it's set up. So I go, fine, I'm going to build these tools. And when I say the month of June, AJ, I'm really talking kind of 30 days, because we're recording this like mid-June. And so these are kind of 30 days. So beginning in June for 30 days, I want to get all of these tools up and accessible to everybody. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to build some tools that don't exist right now, where you guys can sample my services, you can sample my courses, you can sample my stuff and get a feel for it. And the sample means for free, right? And so I know what those are. I've got them organized, I've got them written out. I know what to do. So July, the 30 days beginning in July, would be building out those tools. And then August took the rest of the things on the list, which is basically get the word out about this stuff. Let everybody know what's there and how they can sample it or use it and buy it or whatever. So
those themes sound so much more doable than the way I'm tackling things. Is I haven't even written the list down. It's just all in my head of a million things that have to get done over the next few months. But if I just simplify those into themes as to what I was actually working towards, like the big bucket for each of the next 30 days, I think that'd be very helpful to kind of simplify all the complexity and all the I feel like there's too much data in my head right now, and that would at least simplify it down to at least know which data to sort through first.
Yeah, and here's the thing: it is data, but it's also the data creates a feeling of just feeling overwhelmed,
which decreases productivity, because you just feel like, what am I doing? I can't get it all done anyways.
And you don't even know what to pick. You don't know where to start. You don't know. And so you do a little of this and a little of that. All I'm basically doing is just making a commitment to complete stuff I've started. Okay. And I know getting it across the finish line, like publishing the book, for example, getting it across the finish line was the toughest thing. No, writing the book was the toughest thing, but it seemed like that last few steps across the finish line took forever. And actually, AJ, it's the same thing with the audiobook. We've done the biggest part of it.
Yeah, it's all recorded.
It's not only recorded, but it's been through a major edit. We're doing the final edit just to clean up for the production value so that it can be put out on Audible and Apple and those other places. That's really, it's really easy to do. It's time consuming, but it's really easy to do. That's what I'm talking about. An audiobook is in this list, right? So better get cracking on this one. But here's the thing is take that list in your head and write it down. You can't start with the themes first.
You have to start with the list.
Start with the list. And so this is kind of the Live Truly Free process where we start with a whole lot of stuff. And then it's like, imagine a funnel, and we just keep bringing it down, bringing it down, bringing it down to the core elements. And you are exactly right. When I realized, I just need to get all my tools available to everybody online. It was like, don't worry about the promotion of it. Don't worry about the free stuff. Don't worry about all that other stuff on the list. For the next 30 days, just be laser focused on that. I can't tell you how much freedom I felt. And my productivity has shot through the roof this week because, we're doing the podcast, we're doing YouTube videos, all those kinds of things. And there's a psychological thing that happens. Now I'm focused like a laser beam. Every few seconds, I'm doing more stuff this week than I did for the last 4. And I'm working the same amount of time.
Oh, because you have a laser beam focus now.
I know exactly where I'm going. This is remarkable. And you all are getting the first taste of this. We'll be playing with this and updating you guys. I think we have stumbled into something that is absolutely huge. It'll work for a lot of people. This will work for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm excited to get started with it.
Yeah. So, okay, here's what we'll do. AJ's going to commit right now to do a brain dump of everything in his head. And it can be personal, work, startup, we've got all this stuff going on, entrepreneur startup stuff, and put all that out there and then just sort of sit with that and sort of reflect on it, meditate on it. And what kind of floats to the top thematically, and then break that down and only do 90 days. Don't go out past 90 days. So, and do them in 30-day increments. So I'm calling it June, but it's really going to be June 15th to July 15th. Okay. And go like that. And so AJ, you put that together, and then we're going to follow up with you on how you're feeling, what that's doing to your productivity. And then I will keep being accountable to everybody as to these tools and where am I with them and that sort of thing.
Sounds like a great plan to me.
All right. Well, listen, guys, this has been great being with you. We're going to have more podcasts, but in the meantime, take a look at this podcast right here. I know you're going to love it. Until next time, may you live truly free.